Greetings, I'm Jonathan Black. My topic today is the origins of the Synanon and CEDU program. To follow up on my two previous CEDU videos, I wanted to address the origins of the program as I understand them. It's widely accepted that CEDU and its programs were an offshoot of Synanon, and the name CEDU was an acronym for Charles E. Dietrich University. Charles E. Dietrich being the founder of Synanon. Mel Wasserman, the owner of CEDU, was himself a Synanon franchisee. The purpose of this video is to expose what Charles E. Dietrich was doing, the foundation of his program, and how it ties into many other occult activities that went on in the 20th century. To understand what we were doing at CEDU and where it came from, we have to look at the early life and education of Charles E. Dietrich and take that into consideration when looking at the CEDU methods. According to Paul Morantz's book on Dietrich, From Miracles to Madness, and excerpts that have appeared in the Los Angeles Times of that book, Dietrich's father died when he was young. His mother raised him strict Roman Catholic. He attended and graduated St. John's Jesuit High School in Toledo, Ohio. From there, he went on to the seminary at Notre Dame University before heading out into the world. His drinking led him to Alcoholics Anonymous, where he became a circuit speaker in AA before he started the Synanon program. I want to freeze things at the point where he left the seminary because I want to connect Dietrich's Catholic upbringing and Jesuit education to the methods that we used at CEDU. The foundation of the CEDU program was what they called copping out to your dirt. At CEDU, 3 times a week, we would enter group sessions they called RABs. The room was set up in a circle like a closed AA meeting. Unlike a closed AA meeting, which permits no crosstalk or addressing your comments to anyone else in the room, in the CEDU Synanon model, this is flipped and everything starts off confrontational. We were encouraged to request people for the upcoming session to accuse and indict them for things that they were seen doing wrong. The implication was always that if you were doing one thing wrong, you were doing many things wrong. You must be doing many things wrong, therefore you need to cop out and admit to everything. We were also urged to preemptively bring what was known as a dirt list and present all of our infractions to the room. This was often done preemptively so as to avoid being indicted by someone else. All of the overnight workshops, which were called propheats and took place roughly every 3 months, started off with us listing off our disclosures, which were the bad things that we did or were involved in before we got there. What Charles Dietrich did was rebrand and rename the act of confession, which is the sacrament of reconciliation in the Catholic faith. I'm Catholic myself, so it's easy for me to see what he did. The dirt list is your day-to-day venial sins, and the disclosures are your mortal sins that you did before you got there, and often were what got you there. Instead of getting absolved by a priest, we confessed our sins to the room as part of the CEDU process. The name Synanon itself suggests that it is a treatment for anonymous sinners. In addition to appropriating confessions, the program also took direct quotes and paraphrases from the Bible and presented them as slogans in the overnight workshops. Quote, "The truth shall set you free," end quote, was by far the most prominent slogan, and that is a direct quote from the book of John, chapter 8, verse 32. Quote, "You are your brother's keeper." They used that. That is from the book of Genesis 4, chapter 1, verse 13. Quote, to the degree you feel your sorrow is to the same degree that you feel your joy," is a paraphrase from Romans chapter 8, verse 18. At no point did they give any credit to the Bible. They omit or remove Jesus Christ, the Blessed Virgin Mary, and all of the apostles and saints, and they replace it with the top staff, the older students, the program itself, and the future lessons you will learn in workshops that are kept secret from those above you in the program. There was never any reference to God. There was a masonry component as the secret levels are in place, as I mentioned. There was also a mock coffin funeral experience, I'm told, in the summit. This, of course, is in one of the degrees in masonry. To look at the situation alone, one could deduce that Chuck Dietrich was a wayward Catholic who started a recovery program blending Catholicism, Masonry, communism, and Alcoholics Anonymous. There were crimes that went on at CEDU: kidnappings, murders, rapes, assaults, various disappearances, in addition to the mental and emotional torment that went along with the program. The CEDU High School in Running Springs inspired countless other CEDU-based schools and recovery centers for troubled teens across the United States and elsewhere. With this in mind, what I've done is taken the CEDU synanon story, starting with Chuck Dietrich, and compared it to other occult events and movements in the 20th century. And what I have concluded is that there is a pervasive and omnipresent Jesuit connection in all these things. So I will provide some observations to support this. First, let's discuss the Manson family. Patricia Krenwinkel, who participated in and was convicted of the Tate LaBianca murders, studied to be a nun while attending the Jesuit Spring Hill College in Alabama right before she moved to California and met up with Charles Manson. Here's a picture of Charles Manson with his government-appointed attorney, Irving Kanarek. Kanarek received his law degree under the watchful tutelage of the Jesuits at Loyola Law School, which of course is named after the founding general of the Jesuits, Ignatius Loyola. Next, let's look at Jim Jones and the People's Temple. According to ex-Jesuit priest and whistleblower Alberto Rivera, quote, "The Vatican planned the infamous Jonestown massacre in Guyana in 1978. Jim Jones was a Jesuit under the secret oath with instructions from Rome to commit mass murder in order to discredit Christian camps," end quote. Here's a quote from Jesuit priest John P. Massey, S.J., directed to Jim Jones while he was still alive. Quote, "There is no doubt that you are actively striving to diminish the injustices and miseries that plague man." Here's a picture of Jim Jones with Jerry Brown. Jerry Brown famously attended Jesuit seminary, and here he is. Here's a picture of him with his priestly regalia. The first person that Jim Jones rendezvoused with upon his arrival in Guyana before the massacre was a Jesuit priest named Andrew Morrison, who welcomed Jones to preach in his Sacred Heart Church. Jones, of course, was claiming to be Methodist. "I've been Catholic since I was 9 years old. I've never heard of a Methodist minister preaching in a Catholic church." Let's now look at communist dictator Joseph Stalin. His Jesuit connection is that he himself was a seminarian at the Jesuit seminary in Tiflis, Georgia. My next example of Jesuit influence in occult activity is the low-profile but extremely influential life of Jesuit Father Bernhard Stempfel. Here he is on the left, speaking with his co-author Adolf Hitler. Of course, these men co-wrote Mein Kampf together, and perhaps they're talking about the book in that picture. Here's a quote from Adolf Hitler, recorded in 1939 by Hermann Rauching, the chief of the Danzig government at that time. Quote, "I learned much from the order of Jesuits. I transferred much of this organization into my own order. I see Himmler as our Ignatius of Loyola." Of course, he's talking about Heinrich Himmler. Joseph Goebbels was educated by Jesuits and was himself a Jesuit seminarian before moving on to other things. It's not fair to focus only on the negative. Let's look at the good works by those reared by a Jesuit education. Here's Dr. Anthony Fauci. Shine on, Dr. Fauci. Justin Trudeau and his father Pierre studied under the careful and keen eye of the Jesuit educators at the Jean de Brébeuf College in Montreal. We also can't forget wonderkind political strategist and Jesuit seminarian John Podesta. He's also a very talented lawyer who is very much up to speed on his canon law from what I hear. Now, to bring things back to CEDU, it was fairly common for kids that were there to compare the program to Nazism or communism. This came with scoffing and a smug rebuke often from staff or older students. But it turns out the same kind of people that engineered Nazism and communism are the same kind of people that brought us CEDU and synanon. These clandestine and criminal operations that are seemingly sanctioned by certain echelons within the Vatican represent the elements in our church that derive their spiritual power and sustenance from defying God in favor of Satanism. It should be every Catholic's priority to oppose these deeply heretical and odious elements within our church. In nomine Patri, et Filii, et Spiritus Sancti, Ave Maria. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this.